Morning everybody, it's Rob, Yoga Dad. Hope you're doing well today. Another stunning lockdown day in terms of weather in Bristol this morning, absolutely fantastic. I hope it's as sunny and beautiful where you are today. As you can see, we're back down on the floor today. I've rolled out my mat and we're going to be going through a sequence that's from Rachel Scott's little book of yoga practices again. And today we'll be looking at her Sweet Morning Flow. So this is just a short sequence, as with all of these, 15 minutes long, really to bring that feel-good factor into the day. Really help in terms of kind of prioritising your health and well-being physically and mentally right from the off. Hopefully setting you up and laying the foundations for what lies ahead. So today we will be kneeling for certain parts of the class. I know that some of you in the chat function have been saying that you have like wonky knees, knobbly knees, all that kind of thing, a bit of discomfort basically in this part of the body. Anytime, feel free to use a bit of extra support. Here we are with one of the boys' blankets. Use that as padding underneath the knee, just to provide that little bit of extra comfort. Equally, my trusty dinosaur cushion pillow as well. Anything like that. In fact, we've got some sausage dog cushions as well, just to add to the mix. But yeah, use whatever props feel comfortable to you. And if at any time it becomes really uncomfortable, either just take yourself into a pose that just feels more comfortable, get that seat out, sit there as we've been doing over the last week or two, and just take a moment, time out, and then rejoin the sequence when it feels good to you again. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to start in a cross-legged position. Now, find yourself a comfortable cross-legged position. So some of you may find the knees are kind of coming all the way up towards the shoulders, above the hips. If that's the case, then when you've got chance, particularly when you're looking back on this class that's recorded on my Facebook page, and just using, a thick book, a block, that kind of thing, and just propping it up underneath your bum. Provide a bit of extra support, it will lift the hips up, create a little bit more space across the inner thighs, a bit more comfortable as well for the knees, and help with that lift, that elevation all the way along the spine. Okay, so for us, we're going to just take our hands alongside our hips now, and really start pressing down through the fingers, and feeling that length all the way through from the crown of the head towards the ceiling above us, but also that expansiveness. Now feeling that expansiveness, that space that we created across the chest and shoulders that we talked so much about yesterday. Now grounding down again through the floor, through the tailbone, all the way along the back of the legs towards the outside edge of the feet. And maximising, maintaining that length now as we lift the arms up and overhead. And feeling that space now that we're creating, that great big stretch all the way from the fingertips down towards the hips, the space that we're creating along the side body. And then inhale into lengthen. We exhale to fold forward, and as we lay our hands down, we just take them as far forward as feels good to you. So it might be the case that you've got your hands really close in towards the shins. If that works well for you, then go for it. Otherwise, just start slowly walking the hands out forward along the floor and just still maintaining that length along the spine. So you can see I've just lifted my head up, maintain that space across the chest, length along the spine as I sink the upper body forward across the hips. Now just taking a moment just to close the eyes. I'm just really feeling that pressure placement now through the palms, through all four corners. Elbow creases rotating up towards the ceiling just to create that external rotation in the upper arms as the shoulders just fall away from the ears. I'm feeling that length now along the back body, all the way along the length of the spine, and the hips just rolling back towards the back of the room. Maybe even walking the hands that little bit further forward, but just being mindful of not rounding the spine. Still maximising, maintaining that length along the spine, space across the chest. And just keeping the eyes closed for a moment. And just feeling those sensations in the body wherever they're experienced. Tuning into them, checking in with how the body feels this morning. We go through this sweet morning flow just to warm our bodies up and energise us for the day ahead. And slowly walking the hands back in towards the shins and taking the hands back behind the hips, fingertips. Okay, lengthening along the spine again. Now remembering which shin, which foot you've got in front and just alternating. So moving the opposite foot, opposite shin in front, and we'll do the same again. On our fingertips either side of the hips, maximising that length now along the spine again, tailbone grounding down to the floor. Inhaling to lengthen up. Shoulders nice and relaxed away from the ears, feeling that length now along the side body again. And exhaling to fold forward. And again, you might find that you need to keep the hands very close in towards the shins. that's absolutely fine. Otherwise, feel free just to walk the hands that bit further forward as you allow the weight of the upper body just to sink down. And again, still pressing down through the palms to create that space in the body. But also, as you find you've got that little bit more space, maybe millimetre by millimetre, you're just crawling those fingers forward and just allowing the weight of the upper body just to create that little bit more space across the hips. And as long as it's comfortable for the body, no sharp pains, and just hold this for a couple more breaths. I'm slowly walking the hands back in towards the shins again. Now we're going to move ourselves onto all fours. Now I'm not going to use any kind of support, padding, that kind of thing, but feel free to do so if it works better for you. And so we take ourselves into the all fours position. So hands now out to shoulder distance apart just to create enough space across the chest. Knees underneath the hips, pressing down through the palms. Inhale now to look up, chin towards the ceiling as we arch our spine, tailbone pointing up. And exhaling, bringing the chin in towards the chest, rounding the spine. Still pressing down through the palms nice and evenly as we tuck the tailbone under. We do that for a few breaths. So again, going in your own time. Maybe even closing the eyes, really tuning into those sensations you're experiencing in different parts of the body. And that feeling, that sensation from integrating the breath with this movement. And what it does for your ability to focus, to really concentrate. A single pointed focus on this moment that we have together in this virtual space. A couple more breaths. Really working along the length of the spine, creating some space along the spine. Space across the chest. And then one more. And even feeling that length all the way from the belly button down to the pelvis as we engage the abdominals. Now bring the head back into a neutral position. And we're going to take our hands now forward. For me, it's all the way towards the top of the mat, but just towards further forward than the shoulders, and just slowly lowering our hips down towards our heels. And again, if this feels uncomfortable at all, feel free just to use a bit of extra support, one of those kind of dinosaur pillows, just between your bum and your heels. And if it feels really uncomfortable for the knees, then just taking yourself back up into an all fours position, okay? So lowering yourself down, crossing the forearms over one another, and just allowing the forehead just to rest on the back of the arms. Now feeling that length now all the way along the side body again towards the hips. And as the hips sink down towards the floor, the space that we're creating between the inner thighs, along the length of the spine, but also the chest as it sinks down towards the ground. Now if you haven't done so already, extending the arms out again, nice and long, fingers really reaching away. We're going to press down through the balls of the feet as we lift our hips up and taking our upper body now to the shoulders, just about the point of the wrists. Pressing down through the balls of the feet again as we lift our hips up. Just walking our feet in ever so slightly and keeping our knees nice and bent as we arrive into our first downward dog. Very familiar yoga pose. So keeping our knees nice and bent here, easing any tension that we might experience along the back of the legs. Pressing down through the palms again nice and evenly. In the same way as we did with that seated forward fold. And just start extending, lowering one heel down and then the other as we lengthen along the back of the legs. But again, only go as far as feels comfortable to you. We'll do that once more on either side. Really feel as though we're pressing up and back with the hips. That length all the way along the side body again, all the way from the hands to the hips. And then finding the heels in a comfortable, even position. Now bending the knees. Walking the hands back towards the feet. And as we do so, we press down through the heels and we take ourselves into a forward fold position. Now crossing our forearms over one another, keeping those knees nice and bent, and just allowing the upper body now just to fall down towards the floor. So as we did in that seated forward fold where we're using the upper body weight just to support that release across the hips, we're now doing the same to support decompression along the spine, but also lengthening along the back of the legs. So if it feels good to you, feels comfortable to you, then feel free just to start straightening the legs out, feeling that sensation of length along the back of the legs, all the way from the heels to the hips. But again, just work within your own boundaries. Now bending the knees and taking the hands now down towards the floor. We're going to walk the hands back out again, and we're going to take ourselves into a plank position. Okay? Now we'll start with our knees lowered down, so we make sure that our shoulders are above the wrists. Get a nice firm connection through the palms onto the floor, hands shoulder distance apart, pelvis tilting forward just to protect the lower back, and belly button drawing in towards the spine to engage the abdominals. Now if it feels good to you, feel free to lift the feet up as you press through the balls of the feet. You arrive in that kind of diagonal, familiar plank position. Either way, if it feels too strong, just lower the knees back down again. And then for all of us, we'll just slowly lower down towards the floor, keeping the elbows tucked in towards the ribs. Just take myself back a little bit. Now when we get down there and tuck in the toes, so we've got the tops of the feet flat down on the floor, and keeping the elbows tucked in nice and closely towards the ribs. The palms underneath the shoulders, and we're going to gently press down through the palms as we lift the crown of the head up, but keeping it nice and gentle for this back bend at the start of the day. We take our head back down again. And this time as we inhale, we press down through the palms and just lifting our head up, gazing directly ahead. Length along the back body all the way towards the heels, and back down. And once more. Elbows tucked in nice and closely to maximise that space across the chest. And back down again. Now tucking the toes back under, pressing down through the palms underneath the shoulders, lifting ourselves back up, upper body back up off the floor, taking our hips back towards our heels again, and still keeping our arms extended out. As we did before, pressing down through the balls of the feet as we take our upper body forward, shoulders above the wrists, pressing down through the palms as we lift our hips up now towards the ceiling again, and we arrive into our downward dog for a second time. So again, keeping those knees bent if it feels like it works well for you, and just lifting one heel and then the other, and maybe this time even holding that heel down on one side just to feel all that length along the back of the leg, and then doing the same on the opposite side. Now lifting the heels again back to an even position, bending the knees, walking the hands back again towards the feet as we arrive back into that forward fold, crossing the forearms over one another, bending the knees, upper body sinking down towards the floor. You may even find there's that little bit more length along the spine, a little bit more length along the back of the legs, with the body that much more warmed up. Hands back towards the floor again, keeping those knees bent, walking the hands back out, back into our plank position. Option to lower the knees down or keeping them lifted, shoulders above the wrists, pelvis tilting forward, length along the back body. Really feel as though the front body's lifting up towards the ceiling. And then nice and gently on an inhale, and then exhaling as we slowly lower our body down towards the floor. So we go for the back bend again. We turn our toes out, tucking them out behind us, tops of the feet flat down on the floor, hands underneath the shoulders, elbows tucked in towards the ribs. Inhaling as we press up, lift the head up, gazing directly forward. Exhaling back down. This time as we inhale, we'll look over our left shoulder, keeping that right shoulder reaching back towards the hips. Back down. We look over our right shoulder, left shoulder reaching back, back down. And we do that once more on either side. We're really feeling that length along the opposite side of the body to which we're looking. Back down again, tucking the toes back under, pressing down through the palms, lifting our upper body up, hips back towards the heels again, feeling that length now all the way along from the fingers towards the hips, along the side body. And then pressing down through the balls of the feet as we take the upper body forward, shoulders above the wrist, press down through the palms, hips up towards the ceiling, keeping those knees bent again, walking those heels out one final time. And again, maybe even holding one heel down, feeling that length, that sensation along the back of that leg. And then the same on the opposite side again. And each time you might find the heels will just lower that a little bit closer towards the floor, but don't worry too much if you can't get all the way down. Now keeping the knees bent this time, we take ourselves back down into that all fours position that we were in earlier. Taking the Let's just move myself back. I'm in the middle of the camera. Okay, so back to that all fours position that we were in earlier. Again, using the blankets if you need to. Pressing down through the palms, inhaling to lift the head up. Arching the spine, tailbone pointing up. Exhaling back down, rounding the spine up towards the ceiling, tucking the tailbone under. Back to a neutral position. And we'll now just take our hips back towards our heels and just taking our legs out in front. And so we're going to finish today's class after that energising flow and just lying down. So just finding a comfortable laying position for us. Feet just falling away from one another. Palms alongside the hips facing up towards the ceiling. Back body just feeling all that contact along the floor. Chin tucked in ever so slightly towards the chest just to maintain that length along the neck. And just bringing attention back to the body again. Those sensations you're now experiencing in the body compared to where we started the class 15 minutes ago. What that has done for any aches or tension. Your energy levels, your emotional state for the day ahead. Plus also as we bring attention back to the breath. How that has affected through that energizing sequence, the length and depth of the breath, the way in which it's enabled you to create some space in the body, support muscle release. We go through that warming flow, but also your ability to focus throughout the sequence on those sensations, those feelings, those breaths, one after another. And even if you've only been able to do so for a short amount of time, maintaining that focus, then be really proud of that. Proud of the fact that you've taken this time out for yourself. Now slowly opening the eyes, nice soft gaze. Just rolling over onto one side and just lifting yourself back up into a seated position again, so that comfortable cross-legged position we were in at the start. Bringing the hands now back into the heart center, so just in front of the chest, closing the eyes again. And just taking a moment just to be thankful for that opportunity to share this virtual space together this morning. Nice soft gaze, open the eyes. Thank you for joining me this morning. I hope you've really enjoyed the practice. I certainly have. I'll be back again tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. for the final class, taking inspiration from Rachel Scott's little book of yoga practices. I look forward to seeing you then, but until tomorrow morning, have an awesome day.